Evening all, and we are coming up to the festival of Chanukah. And what I was going to I had planned to do, was to do Mount Saul. But when I searched my computer to see what I had in my files, I found that we did it last year. We did Mount Saul last year, and I sent out a link on the Tefilah Shiur group to that. If anybody who would like to have the link who hasn't got it, please let me know and I'll send it because it's worth listening to again. Interesting shiur. Goldie listened to it this afternoon. And so instead, I thought we would do the other thing, which is connected to Tefilah on Chanukah, which is the Al Hanisim prayer that we say. When do we say the Al Hanisim, Goldie?
On Rosh Chodesh?
No. On Chanukah and on Purim.
Oh, okay.
And where do we say it? No, not before Modim Anachnu. After Modim Anachnu. After Modim. We say it in the Amida after Modim.
And in benching.
And we say in Birchat Hamazon as well. Correct, Johnny. Right. Now, the first thing I want to do before we even look at it is look at where it's placed, because that'll give us a clue as to what's going on. Now, what does Al Hanisim mean? The words Al Hanisim.
On the miracle.
For the miracles. We are thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu for miracles. Okay. Now, let's talk about the Shemona Esrei first, the Amida. If you wanted to put a thank you to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for miracles, where would you put it? Why would you put it in?
Thank you. That's about thanks.
Yeah, you put it in Modim because Modim's about thanks. And that's exactly where it is.
And miracles. And miracles.
Modim's about miracles? Well, I suppose it is. Yes, it does actually mention it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It mentions it very clearly. Let's have a look.
Hanissim v'haniflaot, I think.
That's right. V'al nisecha sheb'chol yom imanu v'al niflaotecha v'tovatecha. So, modim anachnu lach. We thank you. So that would be the obvious place to put it. And that is, in fact, where it is. Because we say it immediately before the words v'al kulam. Right? V'al kulam. V'al kulam means on all of them, for all of them, we thank you. V'al kulam, on everything, for everything. Yitbarach v'yitramam v'yitnaseh shimcha malkeinu tamid li'olam v'ed. Your great name should be elevated and blessed. So it's part of the thank you. So it's in the right place. Now, if you turn to benching, Birkat Hamazon, where do you find it in Birkat Hamazon? Let's see if we can find Birkat Hamazon in this Siddur. Well, I don't know where it is in here, so I'll look at it and know where it is in here.
After Al Kol, is it?
Okay.
I don't know.
Let's just have a look. It belongs before Al Hakol. Right? If you look in benching, if you were going to put something as a thank you for miracles, where would you put it? You told me in Shemona Esrei it's going to be in Modim Anachnu Lach, we thank you. So where would you put it? In benching. No delacha.
Yeah.
Exactly the same thing. It's the same word. No delacha means we thank you. What do we say when we first open our eyes in the morning, Goldie? Moda ani, Goldie says. Right? Moda ani, it's the same word. Thank you. So it goes in no delacha. No delacha means we give thanks to you, Hashem Elokeinu. Why? Al shein chalta l'avotenu. You gave an inheritance to our fathers. Eretz Chemda. By the way, Eretz Chemda. You asked me where Dan's getting his Dayanut. That's where he's getting it. Eretz Chemda. That's where it comes from.
Is this a stone?
Eretz Chemda, the beautiful land, etc., etc., etc. And then we go on to say, "Umafarin zezem b'chol yom v'chol eitav v'chol sha'ah v'al Hanisim v'al hapurkan," and for all the miracles and everything else. So it's placed in the right place in both the Amida and Birkat Hamazon. It's placed in the section where we are specifically thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which makes sense because the Al Hanisim prayer is about thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu for what?
The miracles.
For the miracles. Right. Now, forget Purim for the moment. We'll talk about Purim nearer the time. We're talking Chanukah. What miracles occurred on Chanukah, Goldie?
Ask everybody
The oil
else.
was kept burning over them.
Okay, Warren says, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam sha'akoni v'vara.
Right.
Amen.
Oh, hello, Jackie.
Oh.
Warren says the oil burned for 8 days when it was only sufficient for 1 day. That's a nice miracle.
The miracle was they found any oil at all.
So Jackie says the miracle is they found any oil that was still pure at all. Okay. What else, Jeff? Nothing else?
Maybe. I'm sure there is, because you're asking.
Anyone on Zoom want to tell us any other miracles that
The
we...
few Maccabees beat the whole Romans.
Jackie says there is a miracle that the Maccabees, the Hashmonaim, beat the Greeks, not the Romans, the Greeks.
Great, sorry.
Yeah, the Greeks.
It would have been a miracle.
Now, that was not a miracle that anyone in the room could remember. Everyone remembers the oil, right? Because that's what we learn when we're kids, isn't
We
it?
kids. That we
Now let's look at Al Hanisim. And I'd like you to show me in Al Hanisim where it mentions the miracle of the oil. Don't bother, it's not there. Okay? It's not there.
Well, it says you purify, you take kindled lights in your holy courts at the end.
Yeah, but it doesn't say anything about a miracle of oil burning for 8 days. It doesn't mention it. Now, this is a very big chidush, right? You would have thought, wouldn't you, that the miracle of the oil, which is the thing that you ask any 5-year-old child, any 5-year-old Jewish child, what's the miracle of Chanukah? They'll tell you the miracle is that the oil burned for 8 days. And it's not there. The prayer that is the central theological prayer of Chanukah. Remember, Mount Sor is just a song that you sing. This is a prayer that you say about Chanukah. It's the only prayer that you say about Chanukah, and it doesn't mention the oil. Why not?
Who wrote it, Who wrote it, Johnny? Al Hanisim. Who instigated
The
it?
Anshe Knesset Agdolah,
Right. Okay. Thank you.
the men of the Great Assembly, but they chose not to write anything about the oil. Now, that's something we have to consider.
Look, if you look at the translation.
All right, but Jeff's not happy with me.
Your sanctuary, blah, blah, blah. Your children then entered the holiest part of your house, cleansed your temple, purified your sanctuary, kindled the lights in your holy courts, designated these 8 days of Chanukah.
Yeah, okay, well, tell me where it says about the 8 days of the oil miracle.
Lights for the 8 days.
So what? It doesn't say that there was a miracle that it lasted 8 days. You know that there's a miracle. So why doesn't it tell us? Let's look at Al Hanisim. Jeff is catching my heresy, and he says, was there a miracle even? Maybe it didn't even happen. Maybe it didn't even
I
happen.
never thought of that.
Okay, let's have a look at Al Hanisim. Our job today is to look at Al Hanisim.
Never thought.
Let's just translate it. Al Hanisim, about the miracles, for the miracles. Remember, we're thanking. It's in the thank you section of the benching and a thank you section of the Amida. We thank you, Al Hanisim, for the miracles. Vala Purkan, salvation, something like that. Vala Gvurot, what is Gvura?
Gevura's and strength.
Strength, mighty deeds. Vala Teshuot,
Who are answers.
Yeshua,
Yeshua help.
salvation. Another word for salvation. V'al haniflaot,
And the wonders.
the wonders. V'al hanechamot,
Comfort.
comforting or consolations. V'al hamilchamot,
The wars
and for the battles or the wars. She'asita
that you did.
lavotenu, that you did for our forefathers. Bayamim haheim,
In their days.
in those days.
Those days.
Bazman hazeh,
As mine in these. In this
at
time.
this time.
Fine.
At this time.
Just 1 second. I've got Al Shiur and upon Milkamot. I don't have this Nechamot.
Maybe that's Nusach Sfard.
No, this is Ashkelon.
This is.
No, I
Sfard.
mean, maybe what I've got here,
Oh, okay.
it's only in
That's
Nusach Sfard.
We don't know what the Al Hanachamot, I think.
Yeah,
right?
but maybe.
You've also got Nusach Sfard. What have you got?
Warren.
Warren? Yeah, what have you got? Have you got Nechamot and Milchamot? What have you got? Al Hanisim v'al Hapurkon.
At a short.
Yeah, so you've not got Niflaot and Nechamot either. Okay,
No.
so the Nusach Sfard has an extra 2 things. It has wonders and consolations over and above the Ashkenaz version. Okay, but we get the idea. We're thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu for wondrous things, miracles and salvations,
What
basically.
does Purkan mean again?
Purkan is a type of salvation. Yeah, a victory. Mighty deeds is Gevurot. And then we go into the Chanukah bit, and it's telling you the story. This is telling you the story. Now, where do we know the story of Chanukah from? There is no Megillah. That is the point. Where do we know the story of Esther, of the Purim?
Megillah Esther.
Megillat Esther. Where do we know the story of Chanukah from? Not Megillat Chanukah. There is no such thing.
Is
There
it
is a book.
Chronicles?
No, it's not in Divrei Hayamim either. It is in a book called
The
Sefer.
Maccabees.
Yes, Sefer HaMaccabim, the book of the Maccabees. The book of the Maccabees. Now, where will you find that in Tanakh? Where do you find Sefer HaMaccabim in Tanakh? Where do you think you might find it?
In the appendices.
Jeff says it might be in the appendices. You'd expect it to be next to Megillat Esther and stuff like that, wouldn't you?
That was not necessary.
Yeah, you won't find it
It's
at
in-
all, is
it's-
the answer.
It's in the Apocrypha. It's not in the actual Tanakh. It's in the added books.
It's not at all in Tanakh. It's not. They decided what was in and what was out. There was all sorts of machloket as to what was in. Some wanted Shir HaShirim out because it was too erotic, and some wanted Megillat Esther out because it didn't happen in Eretz Yisrael. And then some people wanted Sefer HaMaccabim out. There was a whole big discussion about it. In the end, we know what was in and what was out. Shir HaShirim was in, Megillat Esther was in, and Sefer HaMaccabim was out. And so we know Sefer HaMaccabim. I've never learned Sefer HaMaccabim, was never taught it. It was always presented, as it were, to me as part of the Christian canon, really, because it wasn't part of our Tanakh. So, but that is where we learn the story of the Maccabees from. But where we know it from, on an everyday basis or an every year basis, is from Al Hanisim, because the next bit we're going to look at is the story of Chanukah. Bimei Matityahu ben Yochanan Kohen Gadol, in the days of this man called Matityahu, the son of Yochanan Kohen Gadol, Chashmonai uvanav, he was a Chashmonai. What's a Chashmonai?
An empire.
Say again, Jackie?
Was it an empire?
No, Chashmonaim is a place. Chashmonai, he lived in a place over there called Chashmonaim. And that's where he lived. Uvanav and his sons. Now, next line is very important. Kesher means when, right? Kasha means when. Kasha amda malchut Yavan harasha'a al amcha Yisrael. When the wicked kingdom of Yavan, where is Yavan?
That's
Greece. The wicked kingdom of Greece, amda, stood up, al amcha Yisrael,
oh, against.
against your people Israel. Now, where do you know the word amda from? That they stood up
This is
against.
from when we call in the Gotham Torah to gracious.
Amida, the Amida.
Okay, amida means to stand up, but what I'm asking, and maybe I'm not making my question clear enough. In what context do you know this verb of amida, of standing up, in a negative sense against a people? Okay, that's what I'm asking. Yes, you're right. Amida is where we stand up for the standing prayer, and you're right. Ya'amod,
In the Haggadah.
Moshe ben Peretz, or whatever you. No, not Yosef ben Peretz.
Yosef, not
Yosef.
Haggadah.
every generation.
Yeah, he she'amda, correct.
Yeah,
The he she'amda, and it is that they stood up, bechol dor vador. Omdim aleinu, on every generation, omdim, they stand up aleinu, against us, lechalotenu, right? Vehi she'amda, vehi she, yeah? It's the same word, So, kishe'amda malchut Yavan harasha al amcha Yisrael, when the wicked Greek kingdom stood up against Israel. Now, what did they want to do to us, by the way, the Greeks? Right, did they want to kill us?
No.
No, they didn't want to kill us. They wanted to do something which is they took themselves and made a verb out of themselves.
Hellenes.
Yeah, they wanted to Hellenize us. Helen, who was Helen?
Queen Helen of Troy.
Queen Helen of Troy. Helen is Greek. To be Hellenized means to be made into a Greek person, right? They wanted to Hellenize us. In the modern days, you would say they wanted to Germanize you, or to Americanize you, or to Anglify you. Anglicize, that's the word, yeah. To Anglicize you, right? That's what they wanted. They wanted the Jews to integrate into Greek society. The Greeks ruled Eretz Israel, and they wanted the Jews to integrate, assimilate into Greek society.
They banned the reading of the Torah.
They did, to take on Greek values and to abandon Jewish values. That is what they wanted to do. They were interested in killing the Jews, right? They were interested in killing Judaism. And this is a big difference. This is a very big difference. We've had times in our history where there have been people, nations who've wanted to physically destroy us. This is different. This was not a physical threat. This was a cultural, religious, and national threat through assimilation.
To like Spanish Inquisition?
No, not really. I'll tell you why it's not the same. Because the Spanish Inquisition, they gave two choices. Either leave Spain and all the Spanish Empire, or convert to Christianity.
Here they're not saying leave.
Here they're not saying leave. They're just and the Spanish Inquisition was forced conversion. This was not forced, as in, if you don't do it, we'll burn you at the stake, which is what happened in the Spanish Inquisition. If you were found to be a crypto Jew, in other words, you were pretending to be Christian, but really you were being Jewish underneath the surface, then you were burnt at the stake. Here it was different. They made national decrees, right? They made national decrees. The national decrees were mainly three things. You couldn't keep Shabbat.
Brit Milah.
You couldn't do Brit Milah, and you couldn't celebrate Rosh Chodesh. Why Rosh Chodesh? Because if you don't know when Rosh Chodesh is, you don't know when any Yom Tov is, right? So what were they trying to do? They were trying to get us to become like them.
Coercion.
Yeah, it was so the effect would have been the same as the Spanish, which is to stop them being Jewish, but it was done in a different way. So they wanted us, and it tells you here the next word, lahashkicham Toratecha. What's the root of that word? Lahashkicham.
To forget, to forget.
To forget, correct. Lahashkicham. It's a causative form of the verb lishkoach, to forget. Lishkoach is to forget. Lahashkiach is to make somebody else forget. So lahashkicham is to make them forget Toratecha, your Torah. That is what they wanted to do. They stood up, keshe'amda. They stood up, and in the sense of Vehisha Amda, they stood up against us. Not lechalotenu, to destroy us as a physical destruction, but to try and make us forget the Torah. And that is a spiritual destruction, a cultural destruction. Okay. And then what did they want it to do? Lahaviram, to move them away. Again, it's a causative verb. L'over means to move. Yeah. Ani ma'avir means I move something else. Lahaviram, to remove them, mechukei ritzonecha, from the laws, chok, yeah, from the laws, statutes, from the statutes of your will. What are the statutes of your will? The mitzvot. They want you to forget the Torah, and they want you to move away from mitzvot. That's what they wanted to do. Va'ata, and you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Barachamecha harabim, with your great mercy, amadata, again that same word, you stood up, lahem, for them, in others for us, you stood up for us. We have that expression in English as well, don't we? You know, I stood up for you, meaning I supported you, right?
Right.
So you supported them, be'et,
In our time.
saratam,
In our time of sorrow.
in their time of Tsoros, meaning us, yeah, meaning the Jewish people. So you stood up for them at their time of Tsoros. Ravta et rivam, you argued their cause. Riv means an argument. Ravta et rivam,
I've got champion.
championed. Yeah, I've got championed as well, but I didn't want to say that because it's not really what it means. Riv means to argue. You argued their cause, which means the same thing. You championed their cause, right? Danta et dinam, you judged their claim. Nakamta et nikmatan, you nakama, you avenged. You avenged their vengeance. In other words, you avenged their wrong that was done to them. Now, this is the miracle now. Masarta giborim biyad chalashim. Masarta. What does it mean?
Is that from the Sorti by any chance?
Yes, it is.
The Sorti, the conservative movement.
It is the same word, same root.
Conservative?
Limsor. What is limsor? What is a masorah?
The Sorah is a hand-me-down.
A hand-me-down, a tradition. That's right. So
But
when you have a
Masorah is
tradition,
descend.
say that again, Faye.
It's descend. Masorah is from the root.
Yeah.
It's descend. A
Descend.
master is a message. Descend, a message.
Send, correct. Limsor is to send a message, right?
Right.
So what do you do when you send a message? You deliver it, right? So masarta giborim biyad chalashim. You delivered the strong ones into the hand of the weak ones. Who are the strong ones? The Greeks. Who are the weak ones? Us.
The Maccabees.
The Maccabees.
Yeah. And so you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, masarta, you handed in, you delivered the strong to the hands of the weak.
Wow.
The rabim biyad ma'atim. And you handed over the many who had the bigger army,
the
Greeks,
hands of the few. Yeah.
into the hands of the few who had only a few soldiers, us, the Maccabees.
Yeah, I have the chills.
Utameim, and the impure ones you handed over, biyad tahorim, in the hand of the pure ones. Who were the impure ones? The Greeks. Why were they impure? Because they just wanted to ransack the Jewish religion. They wanted to make everything tameh. We'll talk about the Greeks in a second. Biyad Tahorim, who were the pure ones?
B'nai Yisrael.
Particularly the
The
Maccabees.
Maccabees,
Why
because they,
particularly?
They were Kohanim.
They were Kohanim, correct? They were
Uh-huh.
Tahor, they were Kohanim. Right? Not finished yet, Goldie.
Yes.
Urshaim, who are the Rashaim, the evil
the
ones?
Greeks, the
Biyad
Greeks,
Tzadikim, into the hands of the righteous. That's us. V'Zaydim, what are the Zaydim?
The
Okay,
elders.
no, that's
Oh, grandpa.
Zakanim.
Zakanim.
I thought like Zeta.
Yeah, that is like a grandpa.
Yeah, but
No.
yeah, but
That's
it's
the
not
other-
that.
no.
Zaydim. Where? Okay, now, where have you had that word before? Zaydim. You've said it 3 times today, at least.
Al Hasidim, Al Hasidim.
Go on.
I haven't got my cheder in front of me. Al Hasidim, Al Hasidim, Al Ziknei, Al Ziknei.
No. You're in the wrong brocha, but you're close.
Oh.
But you're in the wrong brocha.
Okay.
You're in the wrong brocha. Have another go. You're in the right Shmona Esra, but you're in the wrong brocha.
Yerushalayim, no, Yerushalayim, no. Ashivenu, no.
Right, here. How about this? V'lamal shinim al tehi
Al
tikva.
Hasidim. Oh.
Okay. V'chol haminim kerega yovedu. V'lamal shinim, and to the ones who speak badly about HaKadosh Baruch Hu, al tehi tikva, let there not be any hope. V'chol haminim, and all the heretics, kerega yovedu. In a moment they should be destroyed. V'chol oivei amcha, and all the enemies of your people, meheira, quickly, yikaretu, destroy them. Next word.
Malchut, Sodom.
V'hazedim, meheira, te'ake, or te'shabe, or te'mage, or te'chalem, or te'shpileim, b'meir b'yomeinu, baruch atah Hashem shover oivim u'machnea.
Zaydim.
Zaydim.
Thank you. Right. Next time you say Shmona Esra, pay attention. Right. Zaydim are the Zaydim, biyad oskei tortecha. Zaydim are the sinners. Willful sinners. Huh?
This actually says the Jewish collaborators.
Oh, that's interesting.
They caused the problem. They were
Zaydim, okay, that's interesting.
because the wicked people weren't the Syrian Greeks.
Warren is saying that the Zaydim referred to here are the collaborators, the Jewish collaborators, who were, because that was very common actually. There was a big section of the Jewish people at that time who wanted to Hellenize. Very, very similar. Fast forward 2,000 years, right, to the 19th century, right? Same thing happened in Germany. What happened in Germany in the 19th century? In one word.
Reform movement.
Reform. That's exactly what the Reform movement was. The Reform movement in Germany was an attempt
To Germanize it.
to Germanize Judaism. In fact, one of the people, I'm not sure who it was, it might have been Geiger, but I couldn't swear that it was Geiger. One of the big reformniks said, Berlin ist der neue Jerusalem. Berlin is the new Jerusalem. Right? It gives you the shivers just to hear that. Right? The reform movement wanted to make to Germanize Judaism, wanted to change things. And do you know what was I was listening to a podcast on this week actually. Do you know what the one single act in the beginning of the Reform movement which drew the line and made the people split into Orthodox and Reform? The one act was the institution of the organ into the synagogues. In Germany, in the 18th century, late 18th century, beginning of the 19th century, they started to have organs in the shuls and the Reform, and that is where the Orthodox drew the line. There'd been some kind of trying to accommodate everybody until then. That was it. And I heard this week on a podcast by Rabbi Aubrey Hirsch. I recommend it to you if you've got 20 minutes to spare. He's done 175 of these, but each one's 20 minutes. It's called A History for the Curious. It is brilliant. He is a brilliant man. He's one of the teachers at the JLE, the Jewish Learning Exchange in London. Absolutely brilliant he is. And I was listening to a podcast this week on the beginning of the Reform movement, which he gave, and he talked about this idea. There was one man, and I can't remember who it was, one big rabbi, I can't remember now off the top of my head who he said it was, who gave us, when he gave his smicha to his pupils, he wrote on the actual smicha document, this smicha is only valid on the condition that you never become a rabbi in a shul that has an organ. Really interesting. Anyway, how did we get onto that?
Talking
Oh
about
yeah, Hellenizing. Yes, the collaborators. So there were a lot of people at the time of Chanukah that wanted to become Hellenized. They wanted to stay Jewish, but they also wanted to be Greek. What was the Greek philosophy? What was
Aesthetics.
aesthetics, beauty, bodily perfection, right? The body ruled over the spirit. Power might replace
Reality.
and universality erased particularity, meaning that everybody had to be part of this Greek picture. This idea that you would have a separate people within the Greek Empire who would be separate, have their own separate rules. What, again, years earlier, this is not the first time, years earlier, the Purim story, what did Haman say to Achashverosh when he wanted permission to destroy the Jews? That Yesh Am Echad, there's one people who are spread out amongst the nations, who V'datehem shonim, their laws are different. They don't keep the laws of the king. They're different. That's always been the anti-Semites' argument. The Jew is different. And they can't handle the fact that we are different. And so this was the problem in the Greek time. Now, there were many Jews who wanted to become Greek, Hellenized. In the same way as in Germany, there were many people that wanted to become Germanized. And there have been many Jews in wherever they've gone who have happily joined in the culture. Now, the secret, in my humble opinion, and I'm paraphrasing Rabbi Sachs here a bit, and that is the secret is to integrate without assimilate.
So,
Okay.
like, you know something, like I worked with all Goyim. I have to say, I never had a problem. They knew January, this is when I can't come in. She either cancel the day, call the agent. I never had a problem.
No, because they were
No.
interested in making you, and
No.
it's different. It was different in America because there's a separation of church and state, remember? Whereas when you've got something like the Greek Empire, which was a philosophy, it was an absolute philosophy of beauty, aesthetics, power, the body. All the Olympic Games, remember, came from ancient Greek. So many of the Jewish traits were anathema to the Greeks. They went against the grain. The Jew did not parade himself
No.
beauty pageants. They did not parade themselves. Remember, the Olympic Games were done naked originally, right? The human body was worshipped by the Greeks. What do we do as Jews with our
cover
body?
ourselves
We cover ourselves up. Tznuah, modesty, right? We have covenant. We have a covenant between man and God. There, we're all about power. Beauty replaced holiness. Our philosophy, the Jewish philosophy, did not fit the the Greek philosophy.
Interesting.
So to go back to the Zaydim, there were those that wanted to do that, and they presumably sided with the side of the Greeks, and that's who we're talking about here. Now, carry on. Ulecha, and for you, asita shem gadol v'kadosh ba'olamecha. You made a great and holy name in your world. In other words, you made, HaKadosh Baruch Hu made a Kiddush Hashem. How did he make a Kiddush Hashem? By enabling us to win the war, right? Enabling us who were weak to overcome the strong, us who were few to overcome the many, us who are pure to overcome the impure, us who are tzaddikim to overcome the rashaim, etc. You made a great name for yourself, ula amcha Yisrael, and for your people Israel, asita, you made teshua gedolah. What's that?
Repentance.
Teshua, not teshuvah.
Help.
Yeshua, salvation.
Salvation. A great salvation, a big salvation.
You made a great salvation for the people. You saved them.
Right.
Upurkan, another word for salvation. Kehayom hazer,
Until
at this very day, meaning at this time of the year. That's why we're saying it on Chanukah.
So,
Va'achar kain, and after that, what happened? Ba'u vanecha, your children came. Lidavir beitecha. What's Dvir?
to speak, no.
It might be the same root. Dvir is a very popular name in modern Hebrew. But the original word Dvir means the Kodesh Kodashim, the Holy of Holies. It means the temple. Beit HaMikdash. Yeah.
Oh.
Lidvir beitecha, into the holiest place of your house. And what did they do? Ufinu et heichalecha. What does that word mean? Ufinu.
And cleaned.
And
Cleaned.
what, Jackie?
Cleaned.
Cleaned, that's right. Anybody here or on the Zoom ever been to a restaurant in Israel? Yeah, you've been to a restaurant?
Yes.
Yes. What does the waiter or the waitress say to you after you've finished?
15% tip.
15% tip, yeah. Okay, before that.
Charlefanot.
Efshar lefanot.
Meaning.
Is it, can I clear the table? Lefanot means to clear,
Oh.
right? Lefanot means to clear. It's a common word. And in fact, if you were to come to the Sudah Shlishit, Jeff, and to listen to what the Rav said immediately before Rabbi Hanania, he said, Lo lefanot ad acharei Kaddish. Don't clear the table until after Kaddish. So, ufinu et heichalecha, Jackie's right, and they cleaned out your heichal, your temple,
Yeah.
v'tiharu,
And
they made pure et mikdashecha,
your
holy place. Then, what did they do? V'hidliku neirot v'chatzrot kadshecha. They lit lights in the courtyard of your holy place. V'kavu, and they fixed Shmonat Yemei Chanukah Elu. These 8 days of Chanukah, lehodot, to thank, lehalel, to praise, leshimcha hagadol, to your great name.
So nice.
Now, that's a beautiful prayer, but where's the oil? It's absent. The oil is absent.
We're talking about.
It's all about the war. That's the miracle. The miracle of Chanukah is the war.
Wait a minute, but the war wasn't 8 days. So the 8 days is what needs to be explained by the oil.
No, the 8 days is explained by the Chanukat Habayit. What was this? This was the people went in to the temple and they found it tamei. Right? They had to make it tahor. They had to toivel everything. They had to make everything clean and pure and take out all the chaza and all the other stuff that they'd put in there and the idols and what have you. And when it was ready, when they'd done all of that, what do you have when you've got a new house and it's all ready?
A bite.
You have a Chanukat Habayit. Shlomo HaMelech did a Chanukah Tabayit. How long did it last, that Chanukah Tabayit of Shlomo HaMelech?
Okay.
8 days. Right. How long did the Chanukah Tabayit of the original Mishkan last?
8 days.
8 days. Nothing to do with oil. Nothing to do with oil whatsoever. Al Hanisim does not mention oil. And if you're going to tell me that this 8 days is a hint to the oil, I'm going to tell you no, it is not a hint to the oil. So you are going to have to explain to me shortly why the oil is not mentioned in Al Hanisim. But before we get to that, because we'll finish on that point, we've still got a little bit more time. Now, let's just have a look at this Al Hanisim prayer. What kind of prayer is it?
It's thanking.
It's a thanking prayer, correct?
Hashem.
It's a
We're
thanking
small
prayer.
nation against
Right.
this big, huge.
It's not a prayer that
It's
tells
more a
us,
statement.
it's not a prayer that tells us what happened. It's not a story.
No.
It's not a fairy story. What it is, it's telling us how we survived and
What
what does it mean to us that we survived and what were they trying to do? It's a theological prayer. It's a prayer that tells us that what we were fighting for was the survival of
Of our
Judaism, not of the Jewish people, but of Judaism. Obviously, without Judaism, the Jewish people doesn't survive either. But this was a theological battle. It was not a physical battle. Okay, and we start with Bimei Matityahu ben Yochanan Kohen Gadol. Matityahu ben Yochanan Kohen Gadol. If I was to say to you, Matityahu ben Yochanan, you wouldn't say to me, oh, he must be Greek. It's not a Greek name, is it?
No.
No, it's not. It's a Jewish name. Okay. Now, what happened when let's go in our own times. Okay. Yosef Moshe, or Moshe Yosef? Yosef Moshe ben Peretz. Okay. Yosef Moshe ben Peretz was born in the UK. And therefore, when he got his birth certificate, his father did not write on his birth certificate, Yosef Moshe. He wrote Jeffrey. Anything else?
It's interesting.
Jeffrey Malcolm. All right. Now, I am called Yaakov Tzvi Hirsch.
On your birth certificate.
On my birth certificate, I am called Jonathan Howard.
Could I say something?
Warren is called Velvel. His father never wrote Velvel on his birth certificate. He wrote Warren. Why? Because our parents wanted, to a degree, to anglicize us. Thing. It's true, it's possible, but that's not why we did it. We did it. We all did it, didn't we? And I must tell you, things change. When my kids were born,
How old is your oldest?
my oldest is 38.
So they're younger than. Okay.
So when my kids were born,
What did you write?
I was Dafka. You know me, right? For example, my first son, we hedged our bets, right?
What's his name?
His name is Daniel.
And what did you write on his birthday?
Daniel Dov. Okay. Now, the second one, we got a bit braver. So Daniel, why did we choose Daniel? Because that was, you got both there, right? You Daniel, you're okay with that. You're sort of hedging your bets. Mm-hmm. We were a bit braver when it came to the second one, who was called Akiva, right? And we called him Akiva. And on his birth certificate, it says Akiva Zev, Akiva Zev. Now, I remember his bris was delayed by a few weeks. And I remember going into my place of work that I was working for at the time, saying we had this baby. What's he called? No, we haven't got a name for him yet. We haven't got a name. Eventually, after 4 weeks, he had his bris. And I went in the next time and he said, what's he called? I said, he's called Akiva Zev. And they looked at me and they said, what kind of a name is that? He said, he won't thank you for that in 20 years when he's down the disco, will he? I said, he won't be going down the disco when he's in 20 years. But, right, when it came to the third one, we
Yeah.
we were even
Yehuda.
we were even more dafka because
Yehuda.
his name
It's
is David.
Yehuda.
His name is David. Okay, we call him Bobby, but that's another story, right? But his name is David,
On the birth.
and on his birth certificate, it's not David,
What?
it's Dovid. I was absolutely insistent that it was Dovid, David Ari, Dovidari. Now, that was very different. That was a generational change. In when I was born, right, there was no way, except for and in fact, even the Haredi families, certainly where I came from, even the Haredi families gave their kids
Did they really?
English names. Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
surprised.
There's a Satmar Chassid in Manchester, who's the big Gvir in Manchester, the head of the Satmar community there. He's about 70 odd, but about 10 years older than me.
Okay.
And his name is Yitzchok Aryeh Weiss. And I was his doctor. And on his medical records and on his birth certificate, Aubrey.
No.
Aubrey. If you looked at him, honestly, if you saw him, you wouldn't think he was an Aubrey, right? He's a proper Satmar Chassid, white socks, payers down here. You've the full 9 yards, and his name is Aubrey, and he gave his kids. One of them was called one of his sons Yoeli, obviously, because it's Satmar. But on his birth certificate, it's Richard or something.
No.
Yeah, honestly.
Can't believe-
Yeah. Anyway, so Matityahu ben Yochanan.
Did the
Now,
kids ever mention to you why you gave me those names on the birth certificate?
Sorry?
Did the children ever mention to you, like Akiva, Dad, why did you?
No, it was just it was just an accepted thing.
Yeah.
What else would you call them? What they did ask me is why I'm called Jonathan.
Yeah.
That was the
One
question.
day you have to tell us why David became Bob.
I'll tell you that another time. I'll tell you that another time. So
Wait a minute. You didn't mention your last son. You can't get any
Yehuda.
more Jewish than Yehuda, right?
Yehuda, yeah, Yehuda. It's not called
Jew.
Judah. It's
Good.
called
Yehuda.
Yehuda. Yehuda. Yehuda. I have a daughter called
He
Rena.
is Jew. It's
R-E-N-A.
like I'm loud and clear. I'm a Jew.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I had 4 sons on the trot. The 4th son, there's only one name you can call a 4th son. Right? Leah had 4 sons on the trot. What did she call the 4th son? Yehuda.
Yehuda.
Why? Hapa'am ode et Hashem. Hapa'am, this time, ode, I will thank Hashem. I'll thank Hashem. Why? Because Yehuda was going to be Malchut
The
Beit
leader.
David came from Yehuda. He was going to be the
The leader.
leader. So Shem ode et Hashem. So when the 4th son, he had to be called Yehuda. Yeah.
Was it not your minhagim to call after someone that had died in the family?
Yeah, we didn't have anyone.
I mean, thank God.
Because my grandfather, I'm called after.
Yeah,
My wife's family are not Jewish.
yeah.
So that was out.
Right.
And Dan, my son Dan, his middle name, he's actually called after Jeffrey's father, my uncle, whose name was Tzvi Dov. Okay, but I couldn't call him Tzvi Dov because I'm Yaakov Tzvi.
My grandfather was Woofy, so
Right.
you to W for
Right.
for-
So he was called Daniel Dov after him. I'm called Yaakov after my grandfather. And so he was called Jack. Well, they couldn't call me Jack because in those days, Jack was a very unpopular name. So call me Jonathan. Jeffrey Glaskey. He's also named Yaakov because he's named after the same grandfather. In those days, Jeffrey was a more common name. So they called the J with a Jeffrey. That's why Jeffrey is with a J and not with a G. Okay, right. That's names. So why am I telling you all this about names? Because Matityahu ben Yochanan was one of the Chashmonaim. What happened to the Chashmonaim in the end?
Disappeared.
They self-destructed and they became Hellenized themselves. And then you've got, if you look in the Sefer HaMaccabim, if you look in it, they all became John and Hyrcanus
So they're
and
not around today. There's no lineage of them.
no, it all went belly up. And they all started killing one another and they changed their names and they eventually all went Hellenized. The fact that it begins with Matityahu ben Yochanan Kohen Gadol is not a fluke. That's there to tell us that the name and the lineage, and also he was a Kohen. That's a political position as well. A Kohen Gadol was right. And then we have Kisha'amda Malchut Yavana Rasha. The enemy is not just Greece, it's Harasha'ah, the evil
Yeah, it's
kingdom, the
Hellenized.
wicked kingdom. It's a moral clash. Rasha is somebody who's morally corrupt. These people, versus Judaism, they were morally corrupt. Somebody mentioned it earlier on, their immorality. There was promiscuity, there was lack of tzniut, there was the worshipping of the body, and Rabbi
Homosexuality.
Sachs, Rabbi Sachs had a beautiful expression, and he said that Chanukah is not about persecution, but about cultural imperialism. Think about that expression, beautiful expression. Cultural imperialism. In other words, they wanted an empire of their culture. Everybody had to be in their culture. An empire, we think of an empire as conquering land, right? Which we do, an empire. They wanted a cultural empire as well. They wanted everything to be in their culture. Now, that was different, by the way, in the Purim story, because he had 127 provinces all over the place, right? And they were all, quite a few of them were individual. Haman tried to paint the Jew as being completely out of here because they didn't keep the king's laws. But Greece, particularly, then followed by Rome. Rome, of course, was the natural successor to Greece. The same idea.
Well, so what about the oil? Why is that not mentioned here?
Okay, we've got 5 minutes left.
Yeah, let's hear why.
We've got 6 minutes left. I'm going to give the last 5 minutes to the oil. Okay, so we're not.
I want to know why.
Okay, you want to know why the oil's not mentioned?
Because that's what we learned this.
Okay, I'll tell you. All right. So the oil was the sign. It was the culmination. The oil came at the end, right? The war is over. They go into the Bet Mikdash and they find the oil. The oil confirms the divine favor that we've had. But the war asks the question, is Judaism, the philosophy of Judaism, is it meaningful? Is it something that we is worth fighting for? Or do we just take the easy road and assimilate into the culture of wherever you are, be it Germany in the 18th century, 19th century, be it America in the 20th century, or wherever? Okay. Lighting a menorah after victory, that's the easy part. The hard part is the fighting when you're outnumbered, right? Gibor, Rabin biad ma'atim, Giborim biad chalashim. That's the hard part. And only because we chose to fight for our values did HaKadosh Baruch Hu come and help us. The oil is just the end product. The real battle
was keeping the Torah.
Was, are we going to fight? Because we didn't have to fight. Same with the Romans, actually. We could have just given it, could have just become Roman. Right? And I know some people did want to do that. But certainly with the Greeks, many people wanted, we could have just given in. What do we want this fight for? Let's just become Greek like everybody else. Fine, we'll have a little bit, we'll still make Kiddush on Shabbos and whatever, But a bit like in Spain. But in Spain, it was much harsher. But he says that the oil is about God. God did the oil miracle. Humans chose to fight. We Jews chose to fight. We got help from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but only because we chose to fight. Right? So if you look at it, before we just go on to the oil bits and why it's not there because it's not the main thing. And I'll tell you why it became the main thing in a minute. But we need to think about Hanisim in our own times because Jewish power is not about land and it's not about imperialism, despite what the world might say. Jewish power is about the power of our relationship with God, the covenant. Okay? Now, in the diaspora, the modern Jew is very tempted to trade their Judaism for acceptance. We've spoken about it in Germany, in France, in the UK, in America particularly, right? And listen to this, what Rabbi Nathan Lopez Cardoza says. He says that Judaism without friction, covenant without command, in other words, you just give in, he says that is Hellenism in modern dress. And he says this, a Judaism that does not disturb is already dead. In other words, to have a living Judaism, there's got to be some fight in you. They've got to see what's around you and say, no, thank you. That's not for us. And if necessary, I'm going to fight to stand my ground. Now, I never had this, but there were people who went to school, not my particular school. My particular school were very good. But there were people who went to non-Jewish schools. You mentioned Friday afternoon, Goldie. There were kids who were told, you are not allowed to leave school early on Friday, right? And they had to fight for that right. And there were those that just said, well, I can't, right? And they gave up.
We used to have school in Yom Kippur at Columbia.
Right? And so you didn't go, but you fought. And Hanissim insists that survival requires this tension. It requires struggle and it requires loyalty. Because if there's no struggle, look what happens when everything got comfortable. When everything's comfortable, Parashat Hazinu tells it us, you'll get fat, you'll get corpulent, you'll kick out, and it'll all fall apart. And it's happened so many times in history. It's happened in the emancipation. It happened with communism. It happened in America, less so in the UK, but still in the UK. Yeah. And so the main aspect of Chanukah, in other words, what I'm saying is, you can't have the oil without the fight. The oil is the result of the fight.
So
now,
what's the basis for the oil?
Okay, now, why did the oil become so central?
Why did we always learn about
Right,
oil?
why did it become so central in our teachings?
In our
Because
The menorah, the menorah and the Bet HaMikdash.
okay, but why did this miracle, which nobody ever speaks about, it's not in Sefer HaMaccabim either, right? It's a much later I won't say invention, but it's a later, it's brought out later. Why? And why has it become so central to us? I'll tell you why. Because the main thing about Chanukah was the fight, was the war. Very shortly, when I say shortly, within 200 years of the Chanukah story, what happened? 150. Huh?
The fight was finished.
Fight was finished. The temple was destroyed. Along came the Romans, destroyed the temple. And we were dispersed. And from then on until 1948, we didn't have an opportunity to fight. We didn't have an army. We didn't have any kind of tools to be Maccabim. And so we could not, as a people, relate to this idea of the Maccabees. Right? You've got to get your mindset. It's difficult for us because we live in this generation where the Jew's strong again. But it's not that long ago, 100 years even, where the Jew was weak and defenseless. I mean, look what happened in the Holocaust 80 years ago. The Jew was weak. He couldn't fight back. He did their best in little pockets here in the Warsaw Ghetto, but that was a little bit which was really only a resistance. It wasn't. There was no way they were ever going to win. We could not relate to this idea of a milchama that we could win. And so, therefore, Chazal, as it were, had to bring, in order to preserve Chanukah, they had to bring in to the center something that we could relate to.
An association.
A miracle. So they did the same with Shavuot, right? Shavuot was originally what? A harvest festival. Once we were exiled from the land, there was no harvest. We didn't have a land to harvest. So what would happen to Shavuot? It would get lost. And so what did they do? They tagged it on to Matan Torah. There's nowhere in the Torah does it tell you that Shavuot was the date of Matan Torah. It was around about that date. Maybe on the day, maybe the day before, maybe the day after. But Chazal tagged it on to Shavuot in order to preserve Shavuot. Otherwise, the people would have forgotten Shavuot because there's no harvest festival. Pesach they wouldn't forget because it was tagged onto Yetziat Mitzrayim, right? We could relate to that. Sukkot, there was something to do. You sat in a sukkah, what do you do on Shavuot other than eat cheesecake? Nothing. The only thing you could do is bring the korban shtei alechem. There's no Beit HaMikdash. You can't bring the korban shtei alechem. You can't bring bikurim because there's no harvest, and there's no temple. So Shavuot would have gone out the window completely. So Chazal tagged it on to Matan Torah. Piece of genius. And this was the same thing. They brought in the miracle of the oil. I'm not saying it didn't happen. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. But they brought it into the center because that's what kids and adults alike could relate to, right? And therefore, the war became secondary. Fast forward to the 20th century, the Chiloni Israeli takes on Chanukah once again, as a festival celebrating victory of the Maccabees, right? It's not a coincidence. What is the Jewish equivalent of the Olympic Games? The Maccabean Games, right? The Olympic Games was everything that Greece stood for.
So why are we parroting it?
We're not parroting it. We are taking it and we are saying Maccabee. The Maccabees maintained their Jewish identity. We are maintaining our Jewish identity. We're taking that which is good. We don't parade naked, right? Maccabee Games shouldn't be on Shabbat, right? There should always be kosher food, etc., etc. So it's not a coincidence that it's called the Maccabee Games, right? Could have been called anything. Could have been the Jewish Olympics. It's not. It's called the Maccabee Games. There's a reason for that. So the oil was brought into the center because it had to be. Chazal needed something to hold Chanukah together. Now Chanukah can return, as it were, to its original form, which is to celebrate the victory, because we can relate to that today.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
we are thanking God now. Today, we thank God for the miracle. We thank God for the miracle of every war that we survive is a miracle. We thank God for the fact that Judaism has survived. And in some ways, HaKadosh Baruch Hu's thanking us, because it's only because we fought that it lasted. Because otherwise, we're going to just given up and become Greeks, become Germans, become Americans, right? Big sections of us have, unfortunately. But those of us that haven't, we should celebrate this, because Chanukah is the festival where we celebrate the fact that Judaism conquered Greek philosophy and did not allow it. That's not true. It didn't conquer it. What it did was it did not allow itself to be subsumed into Greek philosophy. It held its own. And the symbol of that was the war of the Maccabees against the Greeks. And the culmination of it is the oil that they found.
It's quite an important distinction that we're drawing here.
A very important distinction.
I'll tell you why. Because sometimes I've heard kind of described as almost like the Jewish festival of light, which is like a kind of a more what's the word? Across the world, it's more of a universal festival of light. Every religion has its festival of light. Christianity has its Christmas, and what we really are saying it's not.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
it's not. And anyone that tells you that Hanukkah is the Jewish Christmas, you say no, it isn't. That's exactly what it isn't. Hanukkah is not the Jewish Christmas. Hanukkah is Chanukah, and that is why Hanisim does not mention the oil. Because the real reason that we celebrate Chanukah, the real miracle of Chanukah, the real point of Chanukah is the fight of the Jewish philosophy, of Jewish way of life that did not get subsumed into the Greek way of life. And
I
Surely-
think the custom, Johnny, the
Johnny.
custom,
1 second, Jackie. Johnny first, and then Jackie.
I think the actual custom from when I was a kid, the custom now of using oil in the Chanukah is a modern thing. It used to be candles everywhere.
Well,
It
no.
used to be. I know because it didn't have oil like that, but
Originally, of course, it was oil. The Shulchan Aruch very
yes, I
clearly
know it
says
was
you should
oil.
take oil.
Yeah.
The truth is, Johnny, that the candles are a modern thing.
Oh,
Candles,
oh.
wax candles.
Oh.
Somebody look this up for me. When
Oh,
were wax candles
Oh.
first brought into mass production? I'm guessing now, but I reckon, I don't know, not that long ago, not that many 100 years ago. Certainly, the original way of doing it
Yeah,
was
I know, yeah.
with olive oil.
I'm talking about modern times. Modern times.
Now, of course, we've gone back to authenticity because people
Yes.
are seeking an authentic type of Judaism, and of course, the authentic way of lighting the menorah is with oil.
And how do they celebrate it in Greece?
Right, Jackie.
How do
Surely-
they celebrate it in Greece, Johnny?
How do they celebrate it in Greece? The same way as we celebrate it everywhere else.
Surely, though, the oil was an association for Hanukkah, like Pesach has matzah, Sukkot has esrog and olive. The easy way to associate anything with Hanukkah is the oil.
Well, that's right, and that's why Chazal brought cheesecake in for Shavuos as well, because although these are not halachas, sofganiot and latkes and all those things, right? It's all about keeping keeping the festival alive.
Yeah.
So if you take away cheesecake from Shavuos, you've not got much left. For many people, if you take away latkes and safganiot, what have you got? Take away the candles, what have you got? These are all hooks. That's what they would be called in modern time. They're hooks to hook us in. But the real meaning is in Al Hanisim, and the reason that Al Hanisim is the main prayer for Chanukah is because it is a theological battle of Judaism versus Hellenism. And that is what Chanukah is all about. Yes, Warren.
A technical question. We use oils now, kind of candles. I can't actually use the shonts to light the candles. I have to use a candle.
That's okay.
Which I take from the shonts.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
So you like the
That's absolutely fine. Any questions on Zoom before we finish?
No, but thank you very much. Excellent.
Very
Laila
interesting.
Tov,
Thank you,
everyone.
Johnny.
Laila Tov.
And I even took